Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and a good night. I am King Piggly. This is Gaming Imperfectly, and thank you so much for being here. If you're new to the channel, I am King Piggly, and I hope you like what you see. And guys, you know what I really love? A good ghost story. You know what else I really love? True crime. You know what else I really love? Horror. And you know what I really, really love? When it all comes together. And that's what happens in today's story. Now, you may have heard this story because it's one of the most well-known true crime / ghost stories in America. However, if you haven't heard it, whether you have heard it, it's still great. It's fun, it's scary, and 100% true. Some of it. But anyway, stick around because it's going to get creepy. In the 1970s, a lot of wild stuff happened, but in Amityville, it got a little too wild if you ask me. Now, in a small town of Amityville, there lived a family called the DeFeos. It was the patriarch of the family was a man named Ronald DeFeo Sr., and he was a bit of a brute. From all accounts, he was a heavy drinker. He also liked to bully and domineer over his family. He was super controlling, as well as being abusive to his wife and his children. Now, he had his eldest boy was named after him. It was Ronald DeFeo Jr., but Ronald DeFeo Jr. liked to go by Ronnie, or with his friends, he would also go by Butch. Now, Butch was a bit of a wild child. He was in his 20s at this point in time, but he was still living at home. He was a drinker like his father. Now, Ronald DeFeo Jr., or Butch, or Ronnie, was also known to use heavy drugs, okay? We're not talking about smoking a little cannabis, guys, having a little fun with your buddies. No. Ronnie went on to big boy drugs like heroin, cocaine. He also enjoyed LSD, which is a major hallucinogenic. Ronnie started hearing things. So taking serious illicit drugs on top of mental health issues and on top of alcoholism, Ronnie started hearing voices in his head and actually started seeing what he said was a dark mass of a woman or a creature, something telling him that his family was going to try to kill him, and so he therefore needed to kill his family. And that's exactly what Ronnie did one night. Ronnie went around his house one evening with what is a Marlin rifle, which is a high-powered rifle. Now, this rifle is super loud, guys. By manufacturing statistics and stats of this firearm, the decibel level of the report of this rifle when it's fired, it actually can be heard 1.5 miles away. Okay? Ronnie grabbed this rifle and decided to go around his house, and he shot each one of his family members while they were laying in bed, including the littlest ones that were, I'm talking about little kids. I mean, he shot his entire family, and I'm talking about even the little kids. I mean, the youngest, I think, was 9 years old. There was 12-year-old, 13-year-old. I mean, he killed his entire family. A total of 6 people lost their lives at the hands of their brother and their son. But that's the real murder case. Now, Ronnie calmly took a bath after he was done killing these people, killing his family. He went then down to his local bar, and he walked in and told everybody that he had gone home from his job and that somebody had broke in and killed his family. Everybody rushed from the bar to the house. They walked in. Of course, Ronnie's family is completely dead. They call the police. The police come. They immediately get suspicious about Ronnie. They start questioning him. Then he changes his story, and he says a hitman for the mob came and broke into his house, and they forced him to kill his family. The funny thing is that the police actually reached out to the hitman. It wasn't that the hitman wasn't real. It was that he absolutely was a real dude. They reached out to the hitman, like, hey, did you kill these people? And he was like, no, I was in Florida on business. Which means he was probably down in Florida killing people. Maybe if the cops would have put 2 and 2 together, they could have solved another crime, another murder down in Florida. But nonetheless, the guy had witnesses. This mafia hitman actually had witnesses that corroborated his story down in Florida, that he was there on business, so he couldn't have killed the DeFeos. At this point in time, Ronnie broke down under questioning with the police and completely confessed to the entire thing. He showed them where he had hid the gun and his bloody clothes in a sewer in town. And the crazy thing about this is that, again, he started coming up with these stories about voices and this, that, and the other demonic forces making him do it. It didn't float in court, Ronnie was found guilty of these 6 murders, and he's currently serving prison time and probably going to be there the rest of his life. But he's still very much alive in prison. Now, that brings us up to the Lutz family. Now, guys, this is where the ghost story kicks in. Now, whether you believe the Lutz's story or you don't believe the Lutz's story, or maybe you don't know the Lutz's story, if there's somebody watching this who doesn't know the ghost story of the Amityville Horror, and you haven't seen, there have been 2 movies made of it, and multiple sequels of it. I don't know what to tell. I'm going to tell you real quick. Give you the synopsis. The Lutz family was George and Kathy Lutz. They moved into this house, into the DeFeo's house. They bought it for $80,000, which was a steal. They absolutely knew, because they were disclosed, that the DeFeos had been murdered there, that the entire family had been murdered there. But at the price of $80,000 for a house on a lake in that area, and it even had its own boathouse, who cares if people died there? George Lutz bought the house. Now, the thing is to be known that George Lutz was also, at that time, being audited by the IRS. So in this span of time, there was some financial trouble going on, which some people have speculated into them making up this story for financial gain. I don't necessarily buy that, but everybody's entitled to believe what they want about this story. The story goes like this. In a short period of time of living in this house, paranormal activity started kicking off. They started hearing voices telling them to get out. Green ooze started coming out of the wall. George Lutz claimed that he kept waking up at about 3:15 in the morning, which was the time that Ronnie killed his family. He changed personality-wise. He became really mean and short with the kids and Kathy, which wasn't his normal way of doing things. Kathy would take on physical age. At times, witnesses said, they stared at her and watched her physically get older at times, like physically age to their appearance, and become a whole different type of person. One terrifying moment when George was outside, he looked up towards his daughter's window and saw her standing in the window, and behind her was a demonic-looking pig creature with red eyes. When he ran upstairs to her room, she was in bed asleep, obviously no pig demon. But she called it Jody. The girl actually told him the next day that she started playing with her new imaginary friend who looked like a pig, and its name was Jody. The Lutzes had numerous other experiences, including the Lutz's family. They did have a priest come in who said he experienced some paranormal activity. But nonetheless, all the activity eventually culminated that after 28 days of being in this house, the Lutzes fled in terror and never went back. That doesn't seem right to me. I don't think the Lutzes would have done that. Who runs out of their house in the middle of the night in the hope that you're going to be famous for it? Because what happens if they don't get famous for it? Then they left all their stuff behind. And guys, they never went back. When I say they never went back, they never went back. In fact, what happened is that their house was eventually sold, and their stuff that they left behind inside was auctioned off. They never went back. They didn't even get the money for it. All right? Plus, they lost the money on the house. I mean, you got to understand, when they bought the house, they had a mortgage payment. They lost that to the bank. So they actually went into debt financially by doing what they did. And so when the book came out, and of course then a movie came out, and the movie starred Thanos' daddy and Lois Lane. I'm just kidding. Josh Brolin's father, James Brolin, plays George Lutz, and Margot Kidder, who played Lois Lane with the Christopher Reeves, Gene Hackman film, the old school Superman, she plays Kathy Lutz. Great movie. I love the old one. Then they remade it with Ryan Reynolds and somebody else, and I can't even remember her names. And it was okay. You know, it wasn't. I don't think it was as scary as the first movie. But what do you guys think? Because then, supposedly after this, the Warrens came in. Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now, we all know their name, guys. They're famously attached to a lot of paranormal investigations. And, of course, now they're both passed away. Lorraine just passed away, 2 years ago now? A year ago? Not very long ago. And Ed's been dead for a while now. Nonetheless, they have movies. The Conjurings, Conjuring 2. I think a new one's coming out. The Devil Made Me Do It. So they are well known. In fact, I do believe at the beginning of The Conjuring 2, you actually do get to see them inside the Amityville house. And Lorraine Warren has stated that it truly was the closest to hell that she ever hoped to get, being inside the DeFeo/Lutz's home in Amityville. I don't know. People have had a lot to say since Lorraine died. You know, when Lorraine was still alive, a lot of people had kid gloves when they were dealing with the Warrens. And after she passed, a lot of people came forward and started saying that the Warrens and all their stuff was pretty fake. In short, it was all fake. I don't necessarily buy that either. However, a very spooky picture, and I'm going to actually put it up right now, was taken supposedly at this Amityville house by the Warren team that shows the youngest DeFeo child peering out of the room, the youngest DeFeo son peering out of a room in a house that was supposedly empty by a camera that was set to like take pictures in time or if motion was caught. That to this day, to the day she died, Lorraine Warren stated there were no children in that house when that picture was taken. If not, this is a super clear picture of a freaking dead child, and it's absolutely horrifying. If it is fake, it's a great disappointment that people like Lorraine Warren and Ed Warren would go to such great extents to trick people into believing in the paranormal. And it would also do great harm to the actual paranormal events that do occur that people capture, because then everything becomes fake. You know, I mean, that's the bad thing about hoaxers, is that a few bad apples certainly ruin the bunch when it comes to paranormal activity and ghost stories. However, there have been multiple owners of the Amityville house since the Lutzes have moved out, and none of them have ever complained of paranormal activity. Again, though, to counter that, Lorraine Warren said it's because they exorcised the house successfully, and so this house is clear. However, I'm not one to judge. Maybe they did a great exorcism. I don't know, guys. I'd love to hear what you think about the Amityville horror case. Ronnie DeFeo, is it weird that nobody heard the gunshots? I think it's extremely weird. The neighbors that night reported that they heard the dog barking because the DeFeos had a dog that barked all the freaking time and they hated it. They reported hearing the dog barking, but they don't remember hearing multiple high-powered rifle shots that, by the company's standards, an admission can be heard up to 1.5 miles away when fired. There are houses on both sides of the Amityville house. How nobody heard the gunshots when Ronnie killed his family, I don't know. Strange? Yes. Paranormal? Possibly. I don't know. I'd love to hear what you think. The Lutzes, did they make it all up? Did they move out? Now, they're passed away now, too. Although the youngest son, I think his name's Daniel Lutz, is now a grown man. I mean, he's older than I am. And he has his own YouTube channel, I think, as well. And, you know, he still states 100% that it's true and that it messed him up completely. And he's so dark now. And he's dark. And he gets very upset about the whole subject matter. So don't ask him about it. But he swears that it's true. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? I'd love to hear your opinion. I have my own opinions on it, guys, and I don't really like sharing my opinions on what I think of these things because I want you guys to make up your own minds. And it doesn't really matter what I think. So I would love to hear your opinion on it. Leave me something in the comment section below. And if you've been here this long, I surely hope you'll consider subscribing. But no matter what, hit the like button for me. It helps me out, lets me know you at least enjoyed the content. And guys, if you're a new subscriber or old subscriber, do me a huge favor. Hit the bell. Get the notifications. Keep coming back. Don't miss out on the next dark, spooky, scary, true, not true, possibly true mystery story that I bring to the channel. But that's it for King Piggly today. I'm out of here, and I will see you guys in the next video.